So welcome to the Commercialization Analyst Information Session. We are the Office of Technology Management. I am Heather Jones. I am the Federal Compliance Officer, but I also manage our intern program. So we got just a couple of slides today. We'll allow time at the end for some questions, and I would really appreciate if you don't have your camera on now, that's fine. But at the end, when we're kind of chatting and answering questions, if you could turn your camera on so we could see who you are, that would be great. If you think of a question during the slides, feel free to pop it in the chat, and then I'll try to get to it, or one of us from the office will try to get to it at the end. So I'm going to share my slides. Give me 1 second. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so what is the Office of Technology Management? What do we do? So we move innovations that result from university research into public use by protecting and licensing university intellectual property. So what does the analyst position do at the office? What the role is for the interns is to evaluate new technologies that we receive from around campus. They perform a patentability and market analysis and present their findings to help make a decision whether we'll protect that IP. Along the way, you get to participate in inventor interviews and get industry feedback. In this position, you develop an understanding of intellectual property law, market and industry analysis, and some licensing strategies. Once we protect our IP, the goal is to then market and license it. Michelle, can you give us some insight into some advances based on faculty research and some products that came from that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm Michelle Chitomber. I'm a technology manager in our office. So I work, the interns help me so much to do my job. Couldn't do it without them. So love working with you guys. So yeah, different advances that have come just from UIUC's research. It runs the gamut. So you see on here, cancer therapeutic. I think that might actually have been from UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago. But yeah, so drugs, soft red winter wheat. So yeah, our inventions range from, therapeutics to even things like food. Some of it's genetically engineered, some of it not. Some of it's just propagated for different characteristics. Mosaic, we're one of several universities who claim to have invented the internet. That's kind of fun. In reality, we were one of the first that developed a web browser that, had pictures in it. It looks like, kind of what we use today. Different aesthetic, but same basic layout. Yeah, VXLs down at the bottom. For the longest time, I would present on these slides. I had no idea what a VXL is, but thanks to last week and a new screening, I now know what those are. So they're these little lasers that you can make super cheap, that you can use for communication and lots of other things. If you use a mouse in your computer, there's a little VXL in the bottom of it. We have technologies that allowed for different types of displays. And in fact, that's still an active area of research and commercialization. You can move on to the next slide.
I was trying, hold on. There we go.
Okay, some of them more recent things. Actually, a lot of these are technologies that I manage, but again, so in the innovations run the gamut. So at the bottom left, that is a trombone mouthpiece. That is a technology that an intern once upon a time screened. Above that little, that's like a little button-sized thing that's almost on a paper clip. That's a UV sensor. So that for a number of years was actually sold at the Apple Store. This one of our startup companies did this in coordination with L'Oreal, and so you wear this little sensor. It tells you if you're going to get a sunburn, and of course tells you that you should buy more L'Oreal sunscreen and apply it. Next to that, bucket of paint. That's one of my favorites. It's self-healing. So you can put it on a structure, and basically when the paint starts chipping off, a little bit of glue comes out almost, and it helps the paint stick better. So you don't have to repaint things as often. It doesn't sound too sexy, but it dramatically reduces costs for infrastructure that's in hard to reach places. So if you're painting the Golden Gate Bridge or an oil rig or something. Next to that, I think that's Reconstruct. So this is software-based technologies. We have a lot of software-based technologies. This is one that helps you manage work sites, construction sites and things, I believe. We also have a lot of medical devices. So I won't go through all of them, but at the bottom right, these are technologies, another one in my portfolio, that are based on flexible semiconductor, flexible circuits and things. And they're little patches that you can put on your body. They monitor your vital signs, and it's a way to do, remote monitoring of patients. Maybe they're in clinical trials. Maybe they're just, dealing with life or different diseases or disabilities. And instead of having to come in all the time to have monitors and electrodes on them, they're able to just go live their lives while their medical care team is collecting the information they need about their condition.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So what are we looking for in an intern? So we're looking for excellent verbal and written communication skills. So communication with everyone in the office is very important. Interest in tech transfer, of course. The ability to multitask and manage your time independently. And kind of what I mean by that isn't so much like the ability to do 10 different things all at one time. It's more of multitask and managing different projects at the same time, right? And then managing your time within that. A science and technical background is highly preferred. And then in business or commercial environment, experience is a plus. So we usually have 8 positions total for the analysts. It pays $21.50 an hour. It is a year-long commitment. So from May to May, there's a 2-week mandatory training that begins this year on May 16th. It is 35 hours per week in the summer. So that is from start of training until August. Then you usually get about a week off right before school starts there. It's 10 hours per week in the fall and spring. And then of course, PhD students usually have a more limited schedule. So if they can only do 10 hours per week in the summer, we can work that out. So if Mariana from our office would like to give us a little, why this internship?
Sure. So I was an intern, as you can see there, when I was young. I'm beautiful over there in the corner. But yeah, it's a fun internship in the sense that you will be working. So if you're a PhD student, you are usually hanging out with others in your lab, doing the same kind of things, talking about the same kind of research. So in this case, you'll be working with law students, maybe MBA students or PhD students from other areas. So it will be, you will learn to think in a different way about things, right? So maybe that's what it's meant there by intellectually stimulating. You will also get skills, like marketable skills. So this is a well-known internship. So if you put it in it will look good in your resume, let's say, and also you will learn the skills, right? Like you will get some understanding of intellectual property, about patents. That matters not only for if you're going to go in a career that it's like patent law or something like that, but it's more and more not a requirement, but it's a plus in industry jobs. You might get asked about these skills. Even academics, they're more and more involved in this. So that's going to be a plus. What else do we have here? Well, and it's a good opportunity to network. So Michelle and I and the other tech managers will also be interested in what's your future going to look like. So we'll try to connect you to others. And there's also a big group of alumni. So past, I mean, from here, like from this picture, there, let me see. Well, there are a couple of patent attorneys there. There are some that are in industry jobs, some that went to a law firm to work for a law firm in Japan, and there's more even here. So, well, you see there's some of them returned to academia and decided to be professors. But others, I think there's even more than this, right, Heather?
Yeah, Michelle
This is just not
Michelle might be able to speak on these next couple of slides a little bit. She put this together for a different presentation, but yeah, there's director of MIT is on here. She's one of the first from our intern program. Michelle, who are some of the others we have on this?
Yeah, we have a lot. So in the tech transfer professionals, so we have, I forget what the numbers are. It's something like almost 60% of our grads in the last 10 years, have gone on to have careers that have to do with the internship. So a bunch of them went into tech transfer, proper intellectual property. We got a lot of patent attorneys. 90% of law students who join go into patent law, so it's a good gig. We do have some entrepreneurs. So yeah, and with the pictures of all the faces, I just picked out some of the more common pathways, which involve becoming a patent attorney or going into tech transfer. Some of that tech transfer is within academia. Including like the top job in academia, leading MIT's technology licensing office. You don't get any better than that. And so others are within industry, working for private corporations. Some are even within law, lawyers that are advising, company formation and startups and things like that. So we've got a really great outcomes for our interns.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen on our website, we have a couple of testimonials from some past interns. That's nice if you want to check that out. And here's our timeline, our recruitment timeline. Can everybody see that? You can see the recruitment timeline slide. So we, of course, now today is our information session, and then you'll have until February 25th to submit your resume and cover letter via Simplicity or Handshake. The numbers for both of those jobs is posted on our website, or you can email it directly to me, and there's my email right there. Case interviews will be hopefully the week of March 7th. We hope to get them all done, depending on how many we do. Offers made will be made by March 18th, and then you'll have until March 25th to accept the position and return that offer letter. If you are a PhD student, I will need approval from your advisors prior to your acceptance. And that can just be an email. So now I'll open it up to questions. Anybody has anything? I don't see anything in the chat. We can maybe introduce some of the people from our office so you know who you're talking to. So you all know me. You've heard
there's a
from...
question. I think
Oh,
there's
is there a question?
Amy?
Yeah. Is it okay if I kick it off?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. So I'm a MCB PhD, and so I was just kind of wondering, like, I know like you have to deal with a lot of different types of field within, or you're working with a lot of different fields. So like, if something that you're working with isn't really in your field or something that you're really familiar with, how difficult is it to manage or to like understand the details of it?
One of our current interns, like to answer that question.
I can answer that because I was worried about that too. I think
Thank
one
you,
of the
Kyle.
things that I had with my PhD is I felt like I got so siloed into like just reading certain kinds of papers, right? So you'll definitely have to do a lot of stuff that's outside of your area. And I think you're not going to have a problem. Like you're the same year as me, right? You're like your fifth year or something. Okay, yeah. So most people are like past their prelim or like, have done a few years of their PhD. You've read enough that you're going to be fine. And there's a lot of like previous screening slide decks that you can use to help out. So like most of these inventors are not first time, it's not their first time submitting something to OTM. So like there'll be past information that you can rely on, like past screening decks that other interns have made. the tech managers always have a lot of knowledge about, because they have these long-term relationships with the inventors, so they'll know extra details. So it's really not something to worry about, but if you are concerned about it, like this is something you'll have to do during your interview. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything. Oh, okay. So yeah, during your interview, you'll basically be given a disclosure that's totally outside of your area. And it's like a race against time a little bit to get the important details kind of distilled out of there. So that's something to just practice now, is like picking up something that's slightly outside of your area or totally outside of your area, and just being like, can I get a sense of what's important in this work, what's novel about this work, what's been done before in this area, and can I kind of like distill that to a few sentences in the next 30 minutes to half an hour, right? So I don't know, it's not that bad. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'll
a great
just-
explanation. And we do with the case interviews, we do go outside of your wheelhouse, so to speak, on purpose. But throughout the school year, if you get something that is beyond you as interns, as a group, you can switch and move things around as you see fit. Greg, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to what Kyle said. I also had a little bit of that fear, but you have a lot of things going for you if you're already a PhD student and that you're used to reading the literature and trying to boil it down to the bare essentials. But when you're actually trying to figure out these technologies, you have two amazing resources at your disposal. One of them is the tech managers who, like Kyle said, this is not their first time with most of these inventors. So they have a lot of background information and can sort of help contextualize the invention for you. And the second great resource is the inventors. So part of the process is an interview with the people who actually invented these techs. And you talk with them for an hour and they will just be trying to explain the technology to you. So it's basically like a private tutoring session for exactly what you need to know. So with those two things, I've never felt completely out of my depth. Well, there's one software tech I didn't understand, but that was fine. So sometimes there will just be things that are a little bit odd, but you can definitely work your way through it.
Caitlin, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. So I'm a natural resources PhD student, and I was kind of wondering, a lot of the University of Illinois PhD training is very focused on getting students into academia. So there's a lot of focus on teaching, publications, grants, university service. How much does that training transfer into helping you with this internship? And similarly, what skills would you learn in this internship that you wouldn't necessarily get just from your PhD?
Great question.
It's a long question. But
Sorry.
yeah, so maybe I can tell you how like having been on both sides, on three sides, I guess, PhD student and then intern and then here, right? So I'm a tech manager too, like Michelle. So it will be helpful, the training that you have, and I always like to emphasize that PhD students, a lot of the work that you will do as analysts is searching, and you do that every day, all the time, to searching within your field, whatever you need. So that's something that will be useful. In terms of writing, you will not have to do much writing. It's mostly preparing presentations. You do that all the time too, right? So that's another one that you have. And in other types of skills, I think you get to see other potential career options, right? Career paths that you're not exposed within academia, and you will get to see. So Michelle and I, we don't do just the evaluation part where you do the searches, and so you'll learn about patent language and patent how the process works and how all of that works, which I don't think you have access unless that has changed in academia. So that will be new. And what I was gonna say before is, like, Michelle and I do other kinds of works within our day-to-day schedule that you can talk more to us about what kind of things as a tech manager do. Maybe you're interested in following that path. And we also have special projects throughout the year if you're interested to explore other parts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thanks so much.
Yiming, did you have a question?
Yes. So it is a clarification question. So you have mentioned that you are looking for a 1 year long commitment. I have one more semester, which means I will graduate in December at the end of this year. However, I also plan to work in Champagne through OPT. So do you accept this situation of mine?
I'd be happy to talk to you offline. If you want to stay on after the meeting, we can chat. That'd probably be better.
Okay.
Joseph, did you have a question?
Hi, I'd be curious whether you've had PhD students with different fellowships and how those funding sources interact with your funding, or whether being on a certain fellowship means you can't accept this internship.
No, it doesn't mean we can't accept it. It makes it a little more tricky as far as the time commitment is concerned, because you usually have pretty strict percentages per your fellowship agreement that you have to stick to. Sometimes that ends up reducing what hours you can give to us. But between your business office and our HR department, we can usually work that out. I think most fellowships I've seen in the past, along with your PhD program, what ends up happening is the percentage of time that you can give us goes down, which ends up not being 10 hours per week. It usually ends up being like 7 or 8. But like I said, HR will have to help us figure out what that time percentage is and how that transfers into the time commitment you can give us. But it does not count you out at all. Does anybody else have anything?
I can follow up a little on the previous question and the things that you learn in the internship. One thing that I think is really more of a higher level thing is you're really thinking about things differently in your role as an intern than you are as a grad student. As a grad student, a lot of you are focused on basic science, and you're getting becoming a world expert in your area and things. And our reviews are a much higher level overview. A given technology, you're going to spend maybe 10 hours with. You're not going to become the world leading expert, right? But you get to learn how to capture the essence of something relatively quickly. And a lot of it is not about the technology. When we screen our technologies, again, we have the inventor, we have their grad students, we have the PIs. So they're the experts in the technology. And most of the time we don't have a lot to add to that. I'm not going to help them push their research forward every once in a while, right? But most of the time not. We add a different perspective. And a lot of that is about this idea of transfer. It's like, okay, so you've got the technology. It's really cool. The question that our office has to answer is this something that we can get beyond academia? Can we find someone to commercialize this? Can we license it out? And the many and varied answers to that question become, I think, really interesting. It might be something like, no, the grant you used means that this other company already has rights, so we can't. Or maybe it's, yeah, this is really cool, but the problem is, it's going to take 20 years to get a permit to build this type of facility. Or, there's just so many different things that can impact the real world application of what you're doing. Which as a student, as a researcher who's getting into the details, a lot of times you don't get that perspective that, this whole area I'm working on, well, if we can solve this problem, which might be like an easy engineering problem to solve, you can maybe dramatically increase the potential impact of your work and the odds that someone might actually adopt it. So I think that's really cool. It's almost like the broader impacts part, the whole reason you're doing your research, the motivation. We get to spend a lot more time with that proportionally than you really do in the sort of work you're doing in your labs.
Yeah. So we had a question come in that says, do you guys give preference in accepting PhD students that have about a year left over those that have longer, say 3 years? The short answer is no. We have, I think, most of our interns this year are graduating. So no, there is no preference. Is this position in person only, or is there a remote option? We are expecting to go back to the office starting March 1st. It's kind of a hybrid situation, but no, I do expect you to be on campus. So I don't expect like full 10 hours. physically sitting in our dedicated intern office space. Like certainly if you're in your lab and it's easier to work from there for 4 or 5 hours of your week, that's fine, but we are expected to be on campus. I hope that answers the question.
I have
Do we have-
another question if no one else. I don't want to take up too much time. But there was a lot of, or it seems like a lot of people go into tech transfer after this internship. And so to the current cohort, how many of you came into the internship knowing this is what you want to do versus just trying something brand new?
I can go ahead and answer that. I'm Hannah. I'm one of the cohort members this year in evolutionary biology. And I'd say when I went into this, tech transfer was in my top 5, top 3 careers I was looking at. Other ones being like medical devices or consulting. But after this internship, I'm really enjoying it, and it's my top goal right now. Again, what everyone was saying is true. It's really intellectually stimulating. I've learned a lot of random things that I wouldn't have known before. I know how 5G works now. So that's the long answer to not quite.
Thanks.
Yeah, for me, I basically heard of it for the first time about a month before I applied for the job. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll give that a try. Sounds like that uses some of the skills I'm already pretty good at. Maybe I can learn something new and be interested in it. And so basically for me, this was just sort of a career exploration opportunity to see if it was something that I'd be interested in doing long term. And the answer to that turned out to be yes. So I've been looking for jobs in this field for the past few months. So I'm hopeful that it's going to work out. I'm not so dead set on it that it's the only career path I'll accept at this point, but it's something I enjoy and can see myself doing long term.
I have a follow-up question to that. Are there a lot of tech transfer related jobs in the current job market? Because I'll be probably graduating within, probably within, not within a year, but like a year. So I'm hoping that, like this internship will help me out with hopefully getting myself into tech transfer. I just want to know what is it like?
I don't know how to compare it to necessarily all other fields, but I get an email forwarded to me about once a week from one of the tech managers that they got someone looking for a job in this field. So, looking for someone to fill a job in this field. So it seems like a lot. I don't necessarily want to compare it to other things, but there seems to be plenty of opportunity.
It's certainly growing, right? And you can check out LinkedIn and kind of do a little search and probably see some listings there. There's another thing that a lot of us belong to here at the office called the Association of University Technology Managers. You can look at their website as well and get some insight into that. But yeah, I do think it's a growing field.
And like, are those jobs usually found in university institutions, or are there like private practices that would do or specialize in this type of work as well?
I think a lot of it's in universities, but there are a lot of industry positions. So if a company is big enough, they're going to have their own tech transfer people because they have enough intellectual property to manage that it makes sense. There are government labs. We've got, where did Cecilia go to? Argonne? Government labs all have them. If you're going into it, universities have nicer hours and benefits, so why not? But yeah, it does go beyond just universities. There are some private practices as well, though. A lot of people post on our professional society, and they're associated with just private companies that consult on technology transfer, which I think a lot of smaller institutions and individuals and smaller companies that can't support their own, onboard staff take advantage of. And I got to say, like, the internship prepares you really well for going into a career in tech transfer. By the time you're done with your internship, you've got almost like 500 hours of experience. You don't get that with other entry-level candidates that are applying for these jobs.
And we do really need your help we do use your help. So we want like good interns. We want them to work. We put you to work, guys, right? And you're great.
Yep, and there's always opportunities to take on, little side projects and to learn more, get more into, the business side of things and learn about licensing and all of that too.
Yeah, I'll say one of the benefits I really enjoyed is getting to sit in on meetings where I'm not necessarily expected to present, but I can listen to them talk about these long-term licensing issues that they're facing. So there's that opportunity as well.
It looks like Mariana posted in the chat there the link to the Autumn Career Center where you can see some job listings like we were talking about.
And if you're interested in tech transfer, they have a student membership and access to some resources.
I'll throw out one last question and then I'll stop. So it makes sense that a lot of the technologies seem to have kind of a medical or an engineering bias, but then there was the one trombone mouthpiece that you had on the slide. So do you get like a decent number of technologies from social sciences or humanities areas across the university as well?
Yeah, it's definitely less, because, well, basically our office manages any intellectual property that's owned by the university. So then there's this whole, complex like legal document called the general rules, which we go to figure out if we actually own it or not. So, there are a lot of things that are created by students who are attending here that fall more into, social sciences or those sorts of things, but the university doesn't have ownership over them. So a lot of the innovation that's on campus just doesn't go through our office. But then it really, it comes down to, those folks who need or will benefit from, our office helping them transition things beyond academia. So, maybe some of Mariana or some of the interns who've worked on social science things can talk more about what sort of things we have. I mean, certainly, apps that are based on social science research and things that are implementing stuff. Oh, go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say apps. Yeah, I've worked on a few where it's using a social science research-based intervention, but really what the intellectual property we're concerned with is the software or the way that it's deployed. So mostly like software category, but using social science.
I think we might also have some curricula for content and different educational areas.
Yeah, and you can see our annual report should be posted on our website, and within that there's a nice breakdown from our marketing department about where different disclosures have come from across campus, if you want to look at that.
I'll check it out. Thanks so much.
Does anybody have anything else? Well, thank you all so much for participating, and we look forward to getting your resume and cover letters here soon. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.